Welcome back. We are now on lesson number 5. So we are so glad again you guys are still sticking with us and still here. Before we get started, we're just going to go ahead and take a moment to write down maybe something that was hard this week, maybe something with your action plan that you feel like you succeeded with or that you did really well. And then kind of just think through where you will want to work maybe this week, what goals you want to set, where you want to end up. And while you're kind of thinking through that, we will then move on to what we're going to be talking about this week. But I'm going to give you a second to kind of just take notes and think about how you did last week. Alrighty. Today we are going to be talking about tracking your food. Why does tracking food matter? What should I track? Should I track everything that I eat? And how to read food labels or how to know what a portion size looks like. So these are all really important things about tracking. And I know that a few weeks ago we did talk about the importance of tracking your exercise and your physical activity. But today we're going to really focus on those portion sizes and reading your food labels. So why does tracking food even matter? If you'll look at your participant guide, we're going to start off by talking about Sally's story. And it's on page 3. And some of the things that you'll notice when you're looking at Sally's story, the first biggest thing that pops out to you is at her breakfast meal. She thought that she was only eating 100 calories worth of cereal. But in all reality, she may have been eating a whole lot more of that. She actually was eating 1.5 cups of cereal or the 150 calories of cereal rather than just that 100 calories. And she also didn't write down her coffee, which had 50 calories in it. So there was 150 extra calories that she wasn't taking into account. And if you'll go along the whole page, you'll notice that she did this at every meal, that she underestimated how much she was eating. So this was then kind of impeding her weight loss, her process of losing weight. And so that's why tracking your food correctly matters. And sometimes you're not going to know exactly how many calories you ate. But the rule of thumb is it's better to think that you ate more calories than to think that you ate less calories. Though often we would much rather think that we ate less calories so then we can eat more. But just trying to measure things out for that first little bit to kind of really help you get a good understanding of how much you're actually eating. And so once this is finished, I really encourage you to read over Sally's story and see maybe what she was doing that was causing her to be off so much by her calorie intake, because these might be things that you struggle with as well, or that you find that happen to you. Because some of these things are really hard to measure, and or just like eyeball. So actually measuring them is going to help. So we've been talking about measuring and how to eyeball it, and figuring out how much food you're actually eating. So, what is the best way to figure out how much you're eating? And in the last lesson, one of the things I talked about was with your chicken and your protein, and it's about the size of the palm of your hand. So, there's some things that you can do with using your hand to kind of identify how much you're eating. So, meat is one of those things that you can identify with the palm of your hand. Other ways, though, that you can find out how much you're eating is going to be by just using your good old-fashioned measuring cups and spoons. By using a kitchen scale, we can read our food labels. Or you can even use a calculator to add up how many calories. So there's other ways to record it. You can use your MyFitnessPal. You can use your tracking device. You can use just an old-fashioned spiral notebook, anything that works for you. So then, when you look at page 6, some of the things that you will notice on this is going to be just different objects and what their proper serving size looks like. I'm a super visual person, so for me, this is really, really helpful. It kind of points me to a better understanding of the correct portion sizes. So things like 1 cup is the size of a baseball, a half a cup is the size of a tennis ball. The 3 ounces of meat is the same size as a deck of cards, or cheese is the size of 4 dice. These are things that we know what they look like, so it's really helpful. And page 7 goes through kind of what you can measure with your thumb. What's an ounce, a half of an ounce. For nuts, about a quarter of a cup. And so those are just some other ways to kind of eyeball and help you to get a better identification of a portion size. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at kind of maybe how much is a portion size, and figure out from there how much food we're actually eating. So what I've done today is that I have made some noodles for us, and so what you'll notice is how little amount of noodles there are in my bowls. This one looks a little bit better, but this one does not look like very much. And this bowl right here is going to be about a half of a cup of cooked noodles. So I'm going to try to get it in here for us. Whoop. Okay, so this is about a half a cup of cooked noodles. There's a lot of air at the bottom. It's not going down in it very well anymore. But this was a half a cup of noodles. This is 25 grams of carbs. So this is a little bit over 1 serving of grains. Just this 1/2 a cup right here. So when you go to Olive Garden, when you go to Fazoli's, when you dish out your spaghetti at home, most likely we're eating more than this. So measuring out our spaghetti is going to be really helpful. And so I did the same thing with some angel hair pasta as well. And because these noodles are smaller, it takes up more space, so it kind of looks like you have more food. And sometimes that is a great technique to use in order to eat less food, is to actually use smaller things so that, or break it up into smaller pieces so it looks like you have more. And so this one, this is going to be about a half a cup. There's actually a little bit more than a half a cup in there. So this is probably about 2 servings. So about 30 grams of carbs in this bowl right here. And so this, for a lot of us, is also a small serving of spaghetti. And so just making sure that we are measuring out our pastas. And so the other things I'm going to kind of measure out for you guys and just show you how much food is in it. So I have Honey Nut Cheerios here. And we're going to measure out some Honey Nut Cheerios as well. Honey Nut Cheerios are a good food for you. They have fiber. They are a multi-grain, so they are a good option, and they're pretty good. They have they are fortified with iron, so they are good for you. They have different vitamins in there. So I'm going to open this up on the nutrition label. And I'm going to go over, after I measure this and kind of talk through this, we're going to go over how to read a nutrition label. But when I look at this, I'm going to look at the serving size, which is going to be at the top. And it says 3/4 of a cup is a serving size. I don't have a 3/4 of a cup, so I'm going to use a half of a cup and a 1/4 of a cup to measure it out. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in my bowl. So, for Cheerios, this is actually a pretty decent sized bowl. Can you see it? We have here is 3/4 of a cup of Cheerios.
Won't let me zoom.
Okay. So we have 3/4 of a cup of Cheerios right here. And I'm going to walk up and kind of show you what it looks like. So, it's a decent size. It's about a half a bowl full. But then, what happens if I put too much milk in? Gotta add a little bit more Cheerios to it. So making sure, if you have to balance it out, that those calories count as well. So, I just wanted to show you those two things, and then I also wanted to show you what is the serving size of things like nuts or peanut butter. So for nuts, this is going to be 1/4 cup. And I'll even put it in my hand to kind of show you. With peanuts you get a good amount. So it fits into my hand. So that is almost 200 calories worth of peanuts. So that is a pretty good size snack. And you're going to have some protein. You're going to have some fat mixed in there. So this will help keep you full for a good period of time. But also, if I pour this into my little bowl right here, so it doesn't quite look like as many peanuts when it's in my little bowl right there. And when you do have bigger peanuts, things like, or bigger nuts, so almonds, cashews, walnuts, those really big bristle nuts, then those are you're not going to get to eat as many of them because they're bigger. So the last thing I wanted to show you is peanut butter. For those of you that know me, peanut butter is my favorite food in the whole world. And so 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is a serving size. So we're going to look at what does 2 tablespoons of peanut butter actually look like. So I'm just going to put it into this little bowl right here. And so when you're making a peanut butter sandwich, there are going to be times that you realize maybe that you're using 3 to 4 tablespoons of peanut butter and 2 times the amount that you're actually supposed to be using. So this is going to be 2 tablespoons worth of peanut butter. Can you see that? Okay, so it's about the size of a golf ball. Okay, so those are just some things that we commonly overeat. Your nuts, your peanut butter, your pastas, your Cheerios. So I just really want to encourage you guys to measure everything, especially even if you only do it for a week. Really measuring everything out that you're eating to be able to track it better. And if you go to a restaurant, they should have the nutrition on their websites. So maybe you cut your food in half when you get it, and then you know, okay, I ate half of my meal. Or if you are ordering a soda when you go out to a restaurant, drink that whole thing before you let them have a refill, so you know exactly how much you're drinking. Because sometimes they'll just come and keep refilling your cup, and so you don't really realize just how much soda you have drank. Okay, so now that we've gone over just kind of measuring different foods, I encourage you to do this at your house too. It's really important. So we're going to go over how to read a nutrition label. This is really important, and there's going to be different things that you might look for when you're looking at a nutrition label. So the first thing that I look at typically is going to be the calories, the amount of calories that are in it. But if you have high blood pressure, you may need to look at the sodium amount. If you have diabetes, you're going to want to look at the carbohydrates. So right now, we are tracking, if you're tracking your calories, the first thing you're going to want to look at is your calorie count. But how do I know how much is a serving? So what you're going to do is you are going to look at the serving size at the top. Where is, and if you look on page number 8 of your participant guide, it's going to walk you through how to read a nutrition label. So first, we are going to look at our calories. For this item, it had 250 calories in it, and it says at the side it has 110 calories from fat. So what I'm going to look at next then is, well, how much equals a serving size? And for different foods, it's going to be different amounts, and it's going to say different things. When I was measuring out the pasta today, it told me that a serving size was 2 ounces of pasta. That was not helpful. I had no idea how much 2 ounces actually was. And it turned out to be about a half of a cup, a little bit more than a half of a cup of uncooked. But that was really hard. And the same is with like potato chips and things like that. But sometimes they're really easy and they're really kind to us and they put 3/4 of a cup or 2 tablespoons. So our Cheerios are 3/4 of a cup. But on our nutrition label here, it's 1 cup. And that's really easy. We can measure that out. We can identify, we can see that easier. So the next thing that some of us may need to be looking at is going to be the limit these nutrients, the number 3. And so those are going to be things like your total fat, your cholesterol, your sodium, and your total carbohydrates. So it also will give you the percent daily value on the right-hand side. But I personally find it more helpful to look at, if I know how many grams that I need to eat of certain foods, to look at grams. So like I know that for women, we need to eat 45 to 60 grams of carbs at lunch and supper. So I look at this and it has, for the total carbs, it has 31 grams of carbs in just this one item. So that means that I'm going to get about 15 to 30 more grams of carbs in the rest of my meal. If you are watching your sodium and you're on a low sodium diet, about 1,500, 1,800 milligrams, so you'll get about 500 to 600 per meal. And when you look at this nutrition label, it has 470 milligrams in it. So that's almost your entire salt intake for a whole meal. And then at the bottom, on number 4, it also has your protein and your vitamin A, C, calcium, and iron. So those are all very important nutrients as well, making sure that we're getting a balance of everything in. Okay. So what I want you to do is take a minute and kind of familiarize yourself with the nutrition. Find or write down the areas that you need to look at. Which one do you think that you'll look at first? Try to kind of help you make it easier. So when you do go to the grocery store, you know where to look and what to look at. Okay, so once you have looked at and kind of looked through your nutrition label, I want to kind of just encourage you and tell you that if you haven't been looking at nutrition labels and the next time you go to the grocery store you do it, it may be a little overwhelming because everything you pick up, you're going to feel like you need to look at the nutrition label. And so it might just take you a little bit longer at the grocery store, but don't get frustrated and don't feel overwhelmed. And so maybe you only pick 5 or 10 items to look at the nutrition label when you go to the grocery store instead of everything. But just try and increase how often you're looking at the nutrition labels so that maybe you can pick a better choice. So maybe it's your granola bars that you eat every week. Just see how much added sugar is in them or how many grams of carbs are in there or how many calories. Pick one thing to look at. It makes it a lot easier of a starting point. And so tracking your food or looking at your nutrition label, measuring out your food, these are all really good goals that you could set for the week. So what I want you to do is we're going to go ahead and take a minute to write down in your action plans what you want your goals to be for this next week. And it can be anything that we've talked about today, or maybe it's something else that you've been working on and you just haven't quite gotten there yet. So we'll take a second to go ahead and make those goals. Remember, we want them to be attainable. We want them to be specific. We want them to be measurable, flexible, and we definitely want you to be able to reach them. So go ahead and work on that. Okay, once you have your goals finished, we are going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. And I hope that you guys have had a good week and that you've enjoyed this video. We will be sending you physical activity, some exercises that you can do. It'll be through an email. It'll be a link that you can watch on on YouTube, and it should be a lot of fun. So make sure you're tracking that physical activity and your food for the week. And next week we will have a class in person. But for those of you guys that have been watching the videos each week, just keep watching them and keep plugging along. As always, if you need us, we're here. We can be your support. We can be your encouragement. So just come and talk to us, and we will see you soon.